Welcome on in, everybody. So, with Season 9, we got a lot of cool stuff. I mean, some of my favorite things that we got are this new Artifact Greatsword, we got that new Artifact Warhammer, we've got the new PvP game mode in Capture the Flag, including new maps that we get to play on as well. And in general, I think for a PvP player, this has been a really nice update. But today, the change that I want to talk about is maybe a little bit less appreciated than a cool new artifact like Crescent's Wave. But nonetheless, it is still a very important thing that changed in this game. And I think it has had a really positive impact on the gameplay itself. That's right, we're talking about the haste change. Now, haste is something that I personally have used a lot of as I've played this game. I love haste builds. I always love movement. I love moving as fast as possible. So obviously, I like to stack as much haste as I can on pretty much every setup that I play. Now let's talk about one of the biggest issues that haste had and that this patch has kind of addressed, and that is the melee desync. When your opponent has too much haste and you're trying to hit them with your melee attack, it just doesn't stick to them, you cannot track onto them properly, and they basically just walk away from your attacks. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like we don't see this happen anymore, but it is a lot less frequent than it used to be, especially with weapons like the rapier, which were one of the worst culprits for melee desyncing in general. And especially coming into this patch with the haste cap coming down, I wanted to properly test it before I did a video on it, because, you know, these are the kinds of changes that there are little things that you notice as you're fighting, as you play with these changes, and you might not see them at the very beginning. So yeah, the first big one that I wanted to talk about was that desync. The next really big thing that I want to talk about is movement, and how movement skills and abilities like gap closers have become much more valuable now that the haste cap has come down. I guess the reasoning behind it is if your gap closer is still moving the same distance as it did last patch, but everybody else is moving a little bit slower, that gap closer is now better than it used to be. So it was innately kind of a little bit of a buff to all of those gap closers. And I'm not talking just about gap closers, I'm talking about moves like Steadfast Strike, moves that step your character forward, give you a little bit more additional reach, that kind of stuff. With the haste changes, these are all indirectly getting a buff. And this is something I really like. Honestly, I feel like there's a lot of subtlety to combat in a game like this, and just having your character step forward a little bit when they use a specific move, that's part of that subtlety. So making that more impactful through these haste changes, that's good for combat in this game. And honestly, in my gameplay, that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed is how much more impactful those gap closers, those little steps are. And it just makes melee fighting feel a lot cleaner. It makes it feel a lot better. You're not running into those desyncs as often. So yeah, I think that pretty well sums up why I think the haste change is the most impactful change for this patch, and why it has been a really good change for this patch. And I think that it's a step in the right direction. It's not just a step in the right direction like balance wise, but it shows that AGS is listening and kind of understanding what some of the issues people are having in PvP actually are, and what they can do to alleviate or make those things better. So yeah, well done AGS. Seriously, I gotta say, like, this was a really good change, and I am really enjoying how fighting feels this patch. Anyhow, we've got a little bit of PvP commentary left, so I'm just going to commentate the fights for the rest of the video. Of course, there is a bit of a build breakdown at the end of the video. If you guys want to see what I'm running, there is a written guide linked in the description down below. And last but not least, if you have an awesome fight that you want to see in the New World Top 5 Fights, please send it to Kristofer at pvpnewworld.com. And this fight here, honestly, just kind of wrapping up. We did a great job taking out a couple of players. I tried to go for the swing to get back in the group, and that is the end of the game. Moving on to a new Capture the Flag game. This video, we're also featuring Master Vavi. I was playing with him in Capture the Flag the other day. We had a lot of fun. There are links to his YouTube and his Twitch channel down below if you guys want to check him out. But yeah, we were just basically tearing up the back end of the enemy team the whole time. It was really fun. And as you can see there, I managed to get a few kills at the flag, and then the enemy players respawn. Vavi is on his way over in this direction, and I'm just throwing the waves at these guys as best I can. I go for the spin through, always trying to get them to turn around as much as possible. And we catch this guy with his pants down. Big heavy attack. He goes down. There's the flesh. And the flurry, oh my god, another enemy player goes down on the stack as the friendlies come in. And then me and Vavi chase this poor guy down. He's trying to escape. I'm just whipping the waves at him. You know it's rude when you're just whipping those waves, man. Out of mana, though, for the waves, so I didn't get the kill there. Vavi finishes him off. And we head back upstairs. More enemy players respawning. Honestly, one of my favorite things about this game mode is how it's like a 10 on 10 and the people will respawn really quickly. So the action is pretty much constant. You have to always fight. You don't get a lot of downtime. So yeah, I gotta say, Capture the Flag actually really grew on me the more that I played it this past week, and I think I will be playing a mix of Capture the Flag and OPR. Well, I guess I don't get a choice. I have to play a mix of Capture the Flag and OPR, just like you guys do, because AGS has put them on an hour rotation between the two. But anyway, I'm just doing my best to stay aggressive and on top of the target. I get him with the heavy attack. Down he goes. Then I turn around here and Vavi's just tanking out these guys here. So I'm going to do my best to put a little bit of help in. Go for the rapier flesh through. Unfortunately, I end up missing quite a bit of that combo, but that's okay. And Vavi just goes for a retreat into some safety here. I'm going to follow behind him. The enemy player does not chase, though. He turns around, and I decide to try to chase him a little bit. And there's a nice wave connection on a squishy enemy player there. So I'm going to jump down and try to get back on top of him. And he's got a musket as well. So we know that this guy is going to be running a very glassy build. And I managed to get him right before the heavy attack comes down on Vavi. And just going to quickly pop my consumables there. Turn around and oh my god, that heavy attack, man. Oh my god, Vavi's just taking chunks out of these guys with his gun. And I'm going to do my best to just be that thing in between him and the target. He gets caught in the gravity well, though. And the enemy sniper, he hits Vavi. He hits me as well. He does a lot of damage with that shot. I survive. Vavi goes down. I'm going to do my best to try to get a couple more kills or anything I can get here at the end of this fight. The enemy players just kind of jumping on top of me. I do a good job just trading there with the greatsword, but I don't get any big heavy attacks. And there's a huge mistake. We should have gone for that flurry. The flurry would have been the answer there, but instead I get bursted and die. And here is a look at the build if you guys want to see what I'm running. Like I said, there is a written guide linked down below if that's more your style. But we've got 100 strength, 350 dex, 150 intel, and 100 con. The Crescent's Wave benefits a lot from the 150 intel. This is uniquely, I think, one of the best greatswords that you can pair with rapier or musket. And this being one of my favorite builds to play, like, this is probably my top 3 melee builds that I can play in this game. And I just love this new weapon because we finally have a greatsword that pairs so well. And here's a look at my rapier tree as well as the greatsword tree. The rapier tree you've seen from me a million times. The greatsword tree, I've gone for a pretty offensive focused setup here. Lots of investment in additional damage. Honestly, we could take the last perk out of Steadfast Strike and then go for Giant Slayer in the Onslaught tree there, just for a little bit more burst damage. But outside of that, I wouldn't really make any changes. For Crescent's Wave, of course, I put an augmented arboreal gem on here. Now, this is something I've actually thought a lot about. If you were to go for the enchanted gem or the empowered gem from the Sapphire, and you were to make it arcane damage on the greatsword, you don't actually get any bonus damage on the Crescent Wave. That being said, the greatsword itself is going to actually hit quite a bit harder than if you put an opal on it, because people build a ton against slash damage and literally no one builds against arcane damage. Even with this weapon being very popular and very meta right now, I don't think you'll see people building against arcane damage. It's just too niche of a damage type. So when you have something like melee arcane damage attached to all of your different greatsword skills, I think that is very beneficial. That being said, if you wanted to go for the opal or even go for a diamond and then just run a single greatsword skill, you could, and that would amplify the wave damage even further, but the rest of your greatsword kind of lacks and misses out if you go that route. So it's up to the user. I know I didn't focus on much else of the gear here, but I did want to talk about that specific enchant for the greatsword and the reason why I like to still go for the split elemental damage enchant versus something else, even though the wave doesn't get a buff from it. Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. I would love to hear what you think about those haste changes. or if there's another big change in Season 9 that you think is the one that has made Season 9 for you. Have a great night, everybody, and I will see you all next time.